Hello, everybody. I am so happy to be with you, even though it's on a flat screen and I'm just looking at reflected light. I feel everyone's presence. Mary Alice, that reading just transported me and helped me get ready for this talk. Same to you, Lyriel. Extending light, I could feel the light joining me with everyone there. And Laz, you took me back into my soul with that song. Just so appreciated. This talk is entitled The Endless Enormity. It is a work in progress, as is the author. And it is not meant to be a doctrine of truth. We will examine how love knits the bits together so that we may go from being overwhelmed by the minutiae of the malevolent endless enormity to seeing the magnificent endless enormity of unified oneness. Now, if I could just get my screen to scroll, there we go. The malevolent endless enormity is a product of the separated mind. It seeks to protect personal identity and fears that joining would equal annihilation. It is a description of the ego mind. It also is a distorted form of love of self that most of humanity suffers from. We can go from being overwhelmed to seeing the interconnectedness of everything. That love, compassion, and forgiveness of the separating bring the separated parts back together into a beautiful tapestry. In this, control is not as necessary as trust in the wisdom of the oneness, the whole Spirit, also known as the Holy Spirit. To learn to listen to the wisdom of the oneness, it takes fortitude to practice, the patience to listen, the discernment to recognize pretender guidance, and forgiveness for your inability and my inability to do the above. It takes practice to change the mind. It takes patience to still the mind. And it takes forgiveness to undo the obstacles to practice in patience. I am talking about God and His helper, the Holy Spirit. And since these are loaded words for many of us, realize the words oneness and love are used also to mean the same thing. Bear in mind, I'm using God as a metaphor, and do not claim to know for sure what God is. Mind, thoughts, and focus. We use terms mind, brain, and thoughts interchangeably as though they mean the same thing. I am proposing the word mind is used to describe spirit. Spirit or mind or God precede time, space, matter, and energy. Many of the mystics have told us this, and some of us have experienced the universal mind when we transcend time and space. We experience peace when we connect to this one mind, which is our true self, as Dave alluded to and reminds us of every time. Thoughts, then, are of the body, which includes the brain. The brain and the body are basically temporal memory processors. Our thoughts usually produce some form of tension, mild to major. Even thoughts of peace are usually memories of the peace we experienced when we were truly peaceful and joined with the oneness. Like computers that process information in ones and zeros, the body does it with neurons that either fire or don't. The genetic code is like the motherboard in the computer, and the life experience is like the programmed memory. The memory contains the operating system of our life experience. Our operating system is much like it's formed by our particular language, by our home environment, by our schooling, and all the conditioning that life's experience goes into it. It is how we have learned to organize and interpret our life experience. Much of what goes on in the operating system goes on unconsciously. Just like when we search on the internet, all the processing is not, we don't see all the numbers and all the bits that are on and off, but we see the image on the screen, much the way our thoughts give us an image or an interpretation of what we are experiencing in life. It's a summation, it's not the whole process. The focus then is how we search through the data or minutia to determine the purpose of our actions. So I would like to restate that. How we focus and what we focus on is our goal. It's how we utilize what perception sees. And if you've ever felt passionate about anything, then you probably noticed that it focused your attention, so much so that other things did not enter. The dishes may have piled up, your bills may have piled up. Thoughts that are channeled into this focus are attached to feelings in the body. These thoughts generate emotions by their association with those feelings. Thought, feeling, and action become one. The emotions generate actions, and those actions create a chain reaction that gets things done, sometimes like a bull in a china shop. Yet, when you have accomplished something, first, there is that sense of pride and competence, and you feel connected to something and worthwhile. But usually, after a little time, this feeling of being unsatisfied returns. Sometimes, after I pull an all-nighter and make a beautiful piece of jewelry, I feel great for a little while, but then I crash. And I feel that in the end, what I'm seeing is that I have momentarily glorified my separated self, my ego personality, and I'm all puffed up, and I feel great. But the goal, the hidden goal, is that now I feel more separated. So we conceive of other crusades, other mad purposes, until finally enough crusades and enough feeling alone and unsatisfied. We come to a place where all that we have done has left us with substantial suffering. If we believe that this suffering is caused by the world or by God, then we will not recognize the power which we have thrown away. and we will remain separated from our true selves. But if we accept responsibility, as though everything in the world that we see is been projected there and put there by us, by our own mind, whether or not it's actually put there by our own mind, we have the opportunity to forgive. We have the opportunity to forgive ourselves. We have the opportunity to forgive the world. In my case, this is usually accompanied by some tears. These tears bring a cleansing and an emptying, and usually after I can listen. We may have called out to God before for help and felt that we have received none. We weep, and our tears have emptied us of ourselves. We are finally willing to receive the help we have asked for, but secretly denied. For when we deny, we call out for help and don't hear anything. So we think God isn't real or doesn't care. But that's a trick we play on ourselves to prove that we are separate. And so again, we embark on another crusade to prove that we are unique, special, and the masters of our own universe. It is important to allow oneself to be present to the suffering that one has created. To escape by spiritualizing it or meditating it out of our mind, or creating another crusade will only put off the inevitable. If one can sit peacefully with the mess one has made, then one is ready for guidance. This is a little bit like, for me, E.T. phoning home, or even more important, or more applicable, I guess, is the movie The Matrix, where Neo is in a machine and he is waking up to find that he was a slave to a machine, and he joins with other people who are awake and outside of the machine, outside of the dream. And when he goes back into the dream, the way that he returns to the real self is through a phone call, through a communication link. And the peace of listening to the Holy Spirit, I think, is the communication link back to God, back to the divine, back to the meaning of magnificent enormity. It is the result of letting go of the defenses and fear of annihilation so that we may join with that loving oneness. Here the bits are forgiven, and what is forgiven is the choice we previously made for the act of separation. What is recognized in peace and stillness is the voice of loving guidance that directs us to join with our brothers and bless all that we see with forgiving eyes. This is not a matter of time. For in any given instant we may choose this. Time is not necessary. We don't have to accumulate enough suffering to convince us to listen to the voice. We simply have to change our mind. And in my case, changing my mind over and over again. The fact that we have changed our mind in the past and have heard the voice of love that unifies and brings peace is evidence that it's not necessary to suffer enough until I am willing. It is simply a matter of remembering that love is always there and that we must return and that we can return anytime we truly desire to do so. This joining, again, I must say, is not something outside of me, some great place in heaven that I go to. It's my real self. It is me. That is also God. One, joined, all of us joined. If I can't join, it is because I have chosen not to. Whether I know it or not, whether I see why I have chosen not to, I must be somehow connected or attached to my idea of myself as separate. So peace is an honest reflection. If I am experiencing peace, true peace, then I am joined. If I am trying to be peaceful and trying to join, and yet still I feel tension and impatience and ideas about what it's going to look like, or I think I know what the Holy Spirit's going to tell me before I ask, then I'm not joining. Even though it may be unconscious, it may be just an unconscious love of habit and comfort in my own misery. Either way, I can accept the possibility that I am responsible for the world I see. So I would just like to leave with this little summation. In time and space, all things oppose. Life and death, water and its banks, day and night, and the parts oppose the whole. In eternity, all is one. Life is infinite. Thirst does not exist. Light shines everywhere, and wholeness loves all that is. Yet, in our dream, God is angry. Life is given by death. Desire has run amok. We hide in darkness from God and ourselves. But in God's dream, he discovers that his child has run away from home. He waits many human lifetimes. Finally, the child phones home. God sends money, chocolate, and a card, and these words: "My heart will sing with joy when you return." Over and out. Thank you.